What's up, faithful? You're listening to another episode of the 49ers Web Zone No Huddle podcast, a part of the Odyssey Network. He's Al Sacco. I'm Brian Rennick, and we are going to go through a 53-man roster projection, a way too early 53-man roster projection. The 49ers actually made some changes to their 90-man roster just recently, which is, I think, something that we might see a little bit more as we go. The 49ers signed another tackle to compete at the right tackle position and let go of a couple players that were never in line to to make the 53-man. Corey Luciano, who was a center, and another defensive lineman that was so good that I don't at this point remember his name. But yeah, Al, it's the off season. It's the dead period. But the schedule releases. We're recording this on a Wednesday morning. The schedule will release later today. We will go over that tomorrow, and that will release either tomorrow or Friday morning. But I wanted to take a look at this. I think it's a fun little exercise to go through, just to kind of see who we think might be sneaky candidates to make the 53-man, players we think that, the 49ers have invested some, I guess, resources in that may not make the squad. It's a fun exercise, but obviously things are going to change as camp starts and injuries happen and things like that. But it's still fun to look at.
It is. And you may be listening to this show. The podcast may release after our schedule show. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you're watching us before the schedule released. If you're listening to us on our podcast, it may be after the schedule release. But either way, we appreciate you guys tuning in. And yeah, you mentioned those pickups that they made recently. We'll talk about it, but I kind of like what they're doing. I like that they're bringing in some vets here who can compete, and they're not just guys who are filling a roster spot or somebody you're just going to bring in for camp. These are guys that actually can compete, especially at the tackle position. So I like what they're doing there. When you look at this 53-man roster, I have been talking about, I do have some concerns in terms of regression, in terms of age, spots where maybe they're not as good as we think they are. They're still going to be a very good team, but are they going to be that Super Bowl caliber team? We shall see. But looking at this 53-man roster, and we start with the quarterbacks, doesn't it just feel really, really, really good to not have to go through who's going to be the quarterback? Is it Lance? Is it Garoppolo? Wait, does Sam Darnold have a chance to be the starter? Like, no. You got your dude. You got your franchise guy who was the top of this depth chart. Brock Purdy, who's coming off a season where he was the FedEx Air Player of the Year. He was number 4 in the MVP voting. He threw 31 touchdown passes. He set the Niners single season passing yards mark with 4,280. Led the league in TD percentage, yards per attempt, yards per completion, rating, QBR. Just had a phenomenal season. Maybe the best statistical season, well, probably since Steve Young, right? He did.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any argument about that. I mean, Garcia had some good ones, but not quite as good as Purdy had last year. So he sits atop this depth chart, and behind him, if he gets hurt, we're fucked. It doesn't matter. I mean, Dobbs can kind of hold the fort, but again, I don't think you're not winning Super Bowl with Josh Dobbs. I think he's probably a downgrade from Darnold personally. But again, I don't think that that's a huge issue because if your backup's playing, it doesn't matter. I mean, this is Purdy's team. It's going to go, they're going to go as far as Purdy can take them. And then Brandon Allen, who's a guy that I think will be the third QB, and a guy that, look, again, he was the backup in Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. He's been in the Niners. This is his second year here. I'm not saying he's somebody that can come in and play great, but he's a good guy to have on your roster. He's a good guy to have in the locker room. He's a good guy to have in the QB room. Mentor Joe Burrow was here last year with Purdy. It's a really solid group of 3 QBs. Dobbs is a solid backup. Niners did a good job here. And again, they're going to lock down Purdy. It looks like next offseason, he's going to get this big deal, assuming he plays even close to what he did last year. It's a good group of QBs, and it feels really fucking good, Brian. Yeah. Really good to go into camp just knowing we got our dude.
It does. There's not a whole lot to talk about at this position, and I am so eternally grateful for that because we have spent, 4 straight years talking incessantly about the position, and the fact that the 49ers have their guy, that we don't have to talk about it, is fantastic. But one thing before we move on that I did want to touch on is you talked about him and the contract that he will likely sign after this season, unless in some nightmare turn of events, he absolutely shits the bed and looks nothing like he did last year. I don't anticipate that happening at all. But with that being said, Jared Goff just signed a 4-year extension with the Detroit Lions for $212 million with $170 million guaranteed. And to me, all that means for the 49ers is, and 49er fans, is be prepared for a contract to be signed by Brock Purdy in which he is guaranteed between $180 and $200 million, because that is the nature of the position. It's the nature of contract negotiations in the NFL. Remember, Jimmy Garoppolo became the highest paid player in NFL history after 5 starts with the 49ers. Now he was surpassed, I believe, 1 or 2 weeks later. So it's not like, again, he had this outrageous contract, but it really is just all about timing in the NFL. And, I have said on this show, and I'm still interested to see, I don't anticipate him signing for less than Jared Goff, but but I am still like, there's a part of me, and I'll say maybe like 5% now, where I'm like, I wonder if he goes the Tom Brady route where, either A, he takes less money because he knows, and I think we are all, I don't want to say we know, but I think we are all in the same boat that I'm not Brock Purdy is a fantastic quarterback. I'm not sure he's the type of quarterback that can lift a mediocre roster, which you may end up having if you're having to pay your quarterback outrageous amounts of money. So does he take a little bit of a lower contract just, again, to be able to build? But I also anticipate whatever contract they sign, it's going to be team friendly in its ability to lower cap hits in order to, again, circumvent the cap and sign players that they need. But yeah, 180 to 200 million. And here's the other thing is Trevor Lawrence is also up for an extension. Tua is up for an extension. And there's one more, and I can't. Oh, Dak Prescott, who will probably enter free agency after this season with the Cowboys. And so if the 49ers go the route that they normally do, which is they wait until, for whatever reason, August to sign these extensions, it could be even higher than that if 3 other quarterbacks sign for outrageous amounts of money. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how these negotiations go. And if they buck trend, and if here's the thing, if I'm the 49ers and Brock Purdy is the same Brock Purdy that we saw last year through the first 8 to 10 weeks of the season, I'm hammering that contract out now. I'm not waiting.
100%.
I'm not waiting, because you are going to absolutely cost yourself $20 million at least in guaranteed money if you wait until after those 3 quarterbacks sign their contracts as well.
We'll see how it all plays out. Running back, I got some thoughts here. On running back. Now, I mean, we know who the lead dog is.
Yeah.
One of the best seasons in 49ers history last year, Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
1,459 yards on the ground, over 2,000 all-purpose yards, 21 TDs total. All 3 of those numbers led the NFL. He's going to be the lead dog, Brian, but he's getting up there. He's had almost 800 touches the last 2 years. We got to start finding some people to, alleviate things for him a little bit, take the burden off him a little. And Elijah Mitchell is in the last year of his deal. And I originally thought, is he going to stick around? I think he will. I think he does stick around. And Isaac Orlando is not going anywhere unless he's Joe Williams like disaster.
So here are the running backs that are currently on the 90-man. So there's 6 of them, right? And the likelihood is that they're going to carry 4 at most.
I think 4. Yep.
At most.
Not counting Juszczyk.
Not counting Juszczyk, right?
Yeah.
And so right now it's Isaac Orlando, their 4th round draft pick out of Louisville. Jordan Mason, who will enter his 3rd season with the team, undrafted free agent out of Georgia Tech. The aforementioned Christian McCaffrey. I think he'll make the squad. I think he's got it. I think he's got the inside track. He's got the inside track. Elijah Mitchell entering his 4th year with the team. Undrafted free agent rookie Cody Schrader. And then a guy that I think nobody remembers that they signed in the offseason, and that's Patrick Taylor Jr., running back that out of Memphis, but signed from the Green Bay Packers. He was their 3rd down back. And to me, again, I think Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell, I think, are locks for this. Maybe that's strong for Elijah Mitchell, but obviously Christian McCaffrey is a lock.
I know that they really like Elijah Mitchell for all his injuries
Yeah.
and everything. I know that the coach, he's really well liked by the coaching staff. So
I agree. But the thing is his injuries make him pretty unavailable consistently. And one of the themes in not only their draft, but all of their free agent signings are guys that don't miss time. They just don't miss time. And so that's where I'm like, I'm confident that, Elijah Mitchell is the 2nd best running back in that room right now. But as we all know, your best ability is availability, and his availability is not great. So I don't think Patrick Taylor Jr. makes this team. I think Jordan Mason is on the outside looking in as well. I love Jordan Mason. I love the way that he runs the ball. I love that he just runs with just intense fury, but he cannot pass block to save his life. And that's ultimately what's going to cost him his roster spot.
And here's the thing with Mason. Again, you have to look at what's in front of you. I love the way Mason runs. Love it. I think he's a very good running back, but he doesn't get on the field. They don't play him, in a large part of that is, like you said, because of his pass blocking. So I agree that he's on the outside looking in. I think McCaffrey, I think Mitchell, I think Garendo, and then the guy that I think is going to make it just because
Cody Schrader,
the 49ers, and that's the way things happen. Cody Schrader out of Missouri. He was 8th in the Heisman Trophy voting.
Yeah,
he's a guy, good fit for the system. Niners always hit on these really late round undrafted free agent running backs. It just screams Niner fit to me, and I agree with you. I think he's going to be the 4th back this year.
I mean, the guy gained 1,600 yards in the SEC, playing for a Missouri team that couldn't pass the football. He was facing 8-man boxes almost exclusively, and he rushed for 1,600 yards in the SEC. There's something to be said about that. Is he athletically gifted? No, he's 5'8". 202 pounds, ran like a 4.6, 4.7 40. He's not fast, but everything that you read talks about his vision, and it's his vision that makes him a fit for the outside zone scheme, which is what the 49ers run. And so, I definitely think there is a route for him to make this squad. I think it's a long shot, but I also think that you and I are on the same page that of Cody Schrader, Patrick Taylor Jr., and Jordan Mason, he might be the leader in the clubhouse, depending on how things go for him in the preseason.
Yeah, I think he sneaks in there. I didn't think you were going to agree with me on that one. I'm going to put Cody Schrader on this team. I don't know what Brian's going to say, but hey, we've been doing the show together a long time now, so maybe we're on the same wavelength there.
We are.
All right, what do we got? So I think I'm interested. I have 5 receivers that I think are locks. Why don't we see what they have on the roster, and then we'll break that down.
So current wide receivers on the 90-man: Brandon Ayuk, Ronnie Bell, Chris Conley, Jacob Cowing, the rookie out of Arizona, Danny Gray, Tay Martin, Tariq Owens, rookie out of Missouri State, Deebo Samuel, Trent Taylor, and their 1st-round pick, Ricky Pearsall.
Ayuk, Deebo, Jennings, Pearsall locks. Right.
Yes.
I mean, we got to go with that. Those 4 locks. I also think Jacob Cowing is a lock, or pretty close to it.
I think so too.
I know he's a late round pick. I know anything can happen, but to me, it's a major upset if he doesn't make the team. I think they keep 6 receivers. So who is that 6th guy? To me, it would be between Conley and Bell.
Yeah. And I would go based on the fact that they re-signed Conley and based on what he did in the Super Bowl, I think Conley has the inside track. And I just think, and Ronnie Bell, may make it through waivers and may be on the practice squad. But I think Danny Gray is off this team. I wouldn't be surprised if Danny Gray was off this team before camp started. I mean, I'm being perfectly honest. If they find more players, that they want to bring in, right? And they don't have room on the 90 man. He could be a casualty. It just is what it is. And I think Cowing has the inside track because he can be the punt returner and he runs in the 4.3s. Like, I think this team wants and needs to get faster at the wide receiver position because Ayuk and Debo are phenomenal players, but they aren't speedsters. And I think they need guys that can stretch the field, and they don't really have that. They thought that Danny Gray could be that guy, but one of the things I heard somebody say, and I was like, I get that. I think Danny Gray was a Trey Lance pick. Yeah. And it might've been you that said it actually, but I think Danny Gray was a Trey Lance pick. A guy that, again, his best asset was his speed. And he was a guy that just, could have taken the top off. And I don't know that you need a guy to take the top off with Brock Purdy, but you do need the threat. You do need the threat. And Brock Purdy can take advantage of somebody deep down the field. We saw it. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he has a good enough arm to make those deep throws. So yeah, I think I agree. I think Cowing makes the team. And I do think that they would carry 6. And so if they carry 6 and then they carry 4 running backs and Kyle Juszczyk, there's 11 right there. So you're gonna have to go lower somewhere else. It'll be interesting to see kind of what we see there. But yeah, I think we're in agreement there. I don't see anybody on here. And like I said, of Ronnie Bell, Chris Conley, Danny Gray, Tay Martin, Tariq Owens, and Trent Taylor, I think Conley has the inside track for that 6th spot if they do indeed keep 6.
Yeah, and you're going to be relying on 2 rookies based on our prediction, so it's good to have the vet in there with Conley as well. So
yeah,
tight end to me, man, a lot of names other than George Kittle.
Yeah,
and you could talk me into any of them. Let's hear it.
So we've got Kittle, last year's 3rd round pick, Cameron Latu, undrafted free agent who they seem really high on, Mason Pline out of Furman. Eric Saubert, they signed in the offseason. He is the blocking tight end. I think he makes the squad. That's his role. Some guy that I've never heard of, Jake Tonges, a tight end out of Cal. This will be his 2nd year in the league. And then 7th round pick from last year, Braden Willis, who to me, I know they drafted him as tight end, but based on his movement skills, I still wonder if they are grooming him to be Kyle Juszczyk's replacement more than an actual inline tight end or even a tight end that you split out wide.
That's interesting. Well, Kittle, you worry again because of the age. He's phenomenal, but he's going to be 31. But look, he's coming off a 1,000-yard season, his 3rd. He had 65 catches for 1,000 yards last year. So if he stays healthy, there's no reason to think he's still not going to be George Kittle. But after him, I agree with you with Saubert. He's a blocking tight end. He makes the team. I'd be shocked if he doesn't. And then that 3rd tight end, where do they go? What do they see? Are they going to try to salvage Latu? It didn't sound like Kyle Shanahan was really happy with him when he was asked about him. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's not on the team. Braden Willis and Pline, they're both interesting to me. I never really thought about Willis as a Juszczyk replacement. I never thought of it that way. But if it's somebody they are looking to do that with, they would want to keep him around, and maybe they can sneak Pline on the practice squad. So I would probably go Saubert
or Willis on the practice squad.
Yeah, I guess either one of them, right? I would say Saubert for sure, and then Willis, Pline. One of those guys are going to make the other ones go on the practice squad, and I think Latu is out.
You think Latu's out? Okay. I don't have any way to argue against that because all signs point to them not being thrilled with him. I'm not saying that his injury was fake, but I don't believe that his injury was season ending. And yet they put him on season. Yeah. They put him on season ending IR. Yeah. It was a red shirt move because and here's the thing. Cameron Latu is new to the position. So it kind of makes sense that, he would need more time to develop, but the way that the cards fell this year and your inability to find a second tight end really puts them in a bind when it comes to his roster spot, because again, we're talking about a 3rd round pick. And granted, 3rd round picks are almost a death sentence for this 49ers team. If you were picked in the 3rd round, the likelihood that you last more than 2 years as a 49er is pretty low. You know, you're talking about guys like Trey Sermon and guys like Ty Davis Price, and Joe Williams was a 4th round pick, but Danny Gray. Danny Gray was the beginning of the 4th round, but you know, anyway, I feel like you have to give him an opportunity. If you spend a 3rd round pick on him, you have to give him an opportunity. And you can stock up on tight ends on the practice squad. And you know, if you go a handful of weeks into the season and you're like, this guy just isn't it, right? Then you can bring some guys up. But I think you have to give him an opportunity, because he didn't get one last year. And that's fine. I get it. I understand. But you got to give him an opportunity. If you're going to sink that type of resource into a player, and a 3rd round pick you should be getting starters in the 3rd round. Like you should still be getting starters in the 3rd round.
Yeah. Or significant
they got their
role players.
As Kyle Shanahan calls him, they got their starting kicker in the 3rd round last year. Cracks me up when he calls him starting kicker.
Great.
Like, what? You mean the kicker? So I do think he ends up making the team, but it also would not surprise me if he doesn't. And I think honestly, there probably isn't a player on this 90-man roster that has a more important offseason and preseason ahead of him than Cameron Latu, to just prove that he is a viable player for them. I think Eric Saubert makes the team. He is the blocking tight end. He's the replacement for Charlie Werner. And then, like we said, it'll be interesting between Braden Willis and Mason Pline, and it'll be, and I think that will be a camp battle as well to watch. Again, I do think that Braden Willis has the ability to play or to be a Kyle Juszczyk replacement, just with his athletic profile. You know, Juice is 6'2", 235. Braden Willis is 6'4", 240. So, you know, a little bit taller, but around the same, you know, the same weight, and has some of the same movement skills as Kyle Juszczyk, and has great hands. Like Braden Willis, his issue being a tight end for the 49ers is he's a willing blocker. He's just not a skilled blocker. And that's going to make it difficult at tight end. But when you're talking about fullback, that type of blocking, it's a different, you know, you're blocking on the move more. And I think he has the ability to do that. And then he also would have, just like Juszczyk, he'd be a threat to catch the ball out of the backfield, which a lot of fullbacks aren't. So I think that's an interesting, I guess, future for him. But it'll be interesting to see how things go moving forward.
Yeah. So do you want to say Latu makes it or no? I say no. We don't have to agree.
I say Latu makes it. Yeah, I say
right.
He makes it, just because, like I said, I think they need to give him an opportunity.
All right. So you have him making it. I don't. And that's really the only difference we have so far in this. Offensive line got pretty interesting over the last month.
It did.
How many guys do they have right now in the 90? Can
just
you see that there really
listed
quickly?
As offensive linemen?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
15. And
15.
Eight are going to make it, right? Probably a fair number.
Yeah. So who they have on the squad right now is, and this is listed in alphabetical order. I'm just pulling it from the 49ers website. Isaac Alarcon, who is the very much like Alfredo Gutierrez the last handful of years. It's that, like, I can't remember what they call it, but it's like an exchange program almost. He's from Mexico, just like Alfredo Gutierrez was, from the same school as Alfredo Gutierrez. And there's a specific program that the league has that he is a part of. And so I think in that program. They can be on the roster, but not take up a spot. And so that's what he is. And then you've got Aaron Banks, Ben Barch, which is a guy that I don't think a lot are talking about, but I do think has an opportunity to make this team. Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, John Feliciano, Sebastian Gutierrez, not to be confused with Alfredo Gutierrez. That's a different player. Chris Hubbard, who's the guy that they just signed, plays right tackle. A rookie, I don't know how to say his name. Brayson Mays, Colton McKivitz, Jalen Moore, Drake Nugent, Brandon Parker, another guy that they signed recently, Dominic Pooney, Nick Zakel, and that is all 15.
So six absolute locks there.
Yes.
And those guys are going to be, obviously, Trent Williams is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
McKivitz is a lock.
Oh, you know who wasn't? There's 16, because you know who isn't listed there? And I just realized that is Jarrett Kingston, their 6th round pick out of USC.
Okay. So a lot of guys to choose from for those last 2 spots. Williams, McKivitz, Brendel, Feliciano, Banks. You got to think those starting 5 from last year are all going to return. Pooney is a lock.
Correct.
Lock.
Correct.
Pooney may end up starting. So you have those 6.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming that they keep 8, you're going to have your swing tackle and then another guy in the interior that can play guard, center.
Yep.
They're all versatile. Hubbard is huge to me. When they signed him, I was like, oh, because here's a guy who started 58 games in the league. He was the Browns starting right tackle for years. He was the starting right tackle in Tennessee last year before he got hurt.
Yep. He's an 11-year vet.
Yeah. He's a guy who can come in and start for you if you need him to. That really caught my attention. I think, again, like injuries aside, if everybody's healthy, I think Chris Hubbard is your swing tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
so
okay.
That leaves one spot.
And I think he can maybe even push McKivitz.
That's my question.
Really stealth signing by the Niners. I was like, whoa. Oh, okay. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a good under the radar kind of where this guy come from when camp starts. That last position, man, go in so many different directions. I mean, Burford's the name that sticks out, but I don't think he's guaranteed anything.
No.
I love the Drake Nugent undrafted free agent signing. They have to groom that next center.
Yes.
See the next center that they're grooming. Will they keep him on the roster, or can they put him on the practice squad, or something to snap him up if they try to do that? That's the question for me there, man. So I'll go with Hubbard as your 7th lineman in the swing tackle, and then we'd have to figure out that 8th person.
So here's where you're going. Here's where you're going with that 8th, right? You've got Ben Barch, Spencer Burford. I'm going to go realistically, right? I'm not listing everybody. I'm saying realistically for that 8th spot. You would have Barch, Burford, Nugent, Kingston, Brandon Parker, who probably, if Hubbard is your swing tackle, then Brandon Parker probably isn't in contention, because he is a tackle only. He's 6'8", 320.
And he was on the Raiders practice squad last year, I think, and he missed the year before with an injury.
Yeah,
and he had started in 2021, so it's been a while for him.
And then Nick Zakel, who the only thing notable about Nick Zakel was until Brock Purdy got married, he was Brock Purdy's roommate and close friend. And so I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's enough to make the spot. I think he's another guy that they drafted. He was a tackle in college at Fordham. But he called the protections on Fordham's line from left tackle, which I think is wild to me. I've never really heard that.
I've never heard of that.
That's a guy that they're like, we could bring him in, maybe groom him to be a potential replacement at center. So Zakel, I don't think was ever really in play for tackle position. I think he was an interior guy. And so again, I think that's a guy that you could get on the practice squad. I'm not sure. I don't think he hasn't played, so I don't know other teams are going to snap him up. So to me, it's really Kingston, Nugent, Burford, and Barch. Those are 4 guys that you would have as your interior swing, right? Guys that could play all 3 positions on the interior. I don't know that Nugent is big enough to play at guard. I know he's not big enough to play at guard. He's 6'1", 298. He's a small guy. He's a center only, basically, which I think
Mhm.
again makes it to where you're hoping to get him on the practice squad, not
And
necessarily.
develop him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a developmental
Um,
player.
and so for me, again, it is Zakel, Burford, and Barch, I think, are the three that are fighting for a spot. And of those three, I think Burford has the inside track just because he's played a lot and it seems like the team likes him. I mean, I don't think he's necessarily played well enough to just be a lock. But I think it would be probably Burford and Barch that are going to kind of battle it out for that swing guard spot.
Yeah, and I think I'd go Burford there just because again he's played a lot for them. I know he's clearly had some ups and downs, but
Mhm.
I don't know Nugent's going to be ready yet. A lot of those other guys like Kingston, these are developmental players. So I'll say Burford for the 8th spot.
Yeah, I think so too. But I'm going to give it the inside track to Burford, but I wouldn't be surprised if Barch ends up winning that role because I do think he's a better player than Burford.
Completely open. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Not at all. And I don't know, Kyle Shanahan seems a little bit, I don't know, pissed about the guys who fucked up in the Super Bowl.
Doesn't
There's
it?
been a little
Doesn't
bit,
it seem that way?
like
Yeah.
there's something going on there, I feel like. So
Yeah.
maybe Burford is a guy that's going to be on the outside looking in because obviously he not to pile on the guy, but he did screw up that protection.
Yep.
Pretty big spot there in overtime.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but let's say for now, in May when we're talking about this, we'll say he's got the inside track, and we'll see where we are a couple months from now.
Let's do it. All right, moving on to the defensive side of the ball, defensive linemen. So I told you they had 16 offensive linemen on the 90. What's your
20,
guess on
25?
defensive linemen?
I'll say 22. Am I close? He's still counting.
18.
So.
18.
18.
Yeah, 18. So still more than
That's
more
not
than
as
the
bad as I
offensive
thought it
linemen.
was. And
What's
you want to say
funny-
what 10 are going to make it?
So we said 8 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Right? We said 3 quarterbacks, so that's 11. We said what? 5 or no, 5 running backs including Kyle Juszczyk, right?
Yeah.
So that's 16. 4 tight ends, so that's 20.
3 tight ends, didn't we?
Or 3 tight ends. Sorry. So that's 19 and then we said 6 wide receivers, so that is 25. So and then you've got 3 specialists, so that's 28. And so you're looking at 25 on the defensive side of the ball. So if you keep 10 defensive linemen, then you've only got between the linebackers and the secondary, you've got that seems
that
about
works because 5 linebackers, 6 corners, 4 safeties. That works. So we'll say 10.
Yeah. All right. So defensive lineman, Evan Anderson, the undrafted free agent out of Florida Atlantic, that got a massive for undrafted free agents, got a massive signing bonus. To me, that feels like you're counting on him to be on the team. You've got defensive end Alex Barrett, Robert Beal Jr., defensive end draft pick last year. Some guy named Nick Bosa, a guy that they just signed, who was a rookie last year, Shaquille Brown. He's a defensive tackle from Troy. He was a guy that the 49ers brought in on a top 30 visit. They didn't end up, I don't remember if he was undrafted and signed with another team or if he was drafted late by a team. I think he was undrafted, signed by another team. He was already released by that team, but they just brought him in. Austin Bryant, defensive end. Malik Collins, defensive tackle. Kalia Davis, defensive tackle. Jordan Elliott, defensive tackle. Leonard Floyd, DN. Kevin Givens, D tackle. Yetur Gross-Matos. Charles Omenihu. Just the swing.
We hope.
Like inside, outside versatility.
So.
Yeah. Javon Hargrave, D tackle. Drake Jackson, D end. Raymond Johnson, the third. He's 6'3", 264. So I'm going to say that's a D end. I don't know anything about him. T.Y. McGill, defensive tackle. Sam Okayinonu, no idea. And then that's the end of the list. Yeah.
So I hear 5 locks in my head.
Yeah.
From what you said, Bosa, Floyd, Hargrave, Collins, Gross-Matos, locks.
Yes, locks. Yeah, I would say lock. I would call. I don't know. I would call Kevin Givens a lock.
Elliott?
No, okay. I would say Givens.
Givens is. I have Strong making it for him. So that's 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jordan Elliott is, I mean, got to be somewhat
Maybe.
close to a lock based on them bringing him
Yeah.
in free agency. So that's 7. I agree with you with Evan Anderson.
Yeah.
They need somebody who would help stop the run. They gave him a big signing bonus.
He's
I think
6'3",
someone
326.
Yeah, I think
He's a
he's
big
someone
guy.
who's going to sneak in there.
Yeah.
So he'd
He's a
be
big
8
dude.
for me. And then you're looking at Robert Beal, Drake Jackson, Kalia Davis. 2 of
Austin
those 3
Bryant.
guys. Yeah. So we have 8, right? So we have the 5 locks. We have Gibbons, Elliott. Do you agree on Anderson, or am I jumping the gun with him?
No, I think that, like I said, based on the amount of money that they gave him, to me, that screams we plan on him making the squad. It was like $280,000, which, like I said, is not a lot in NFL speak, but when it comes to undrafted free agents, that's a ton. It was like, to me, that's a priority undrafted free agent to them. And also, he was a guy that they brought in on a top 30 visit. So he's a guy that they were looking at anyway. And then, didn't pull the trigger, but knew, hey, if he doesn't get drafted, we're going to bring him in. So I think he's a run plugger. And I think that's something they don't have on this team, and something that they need, because outside of Evan Anderson at 326, the next closest guy is Collins and Kalia Davis are both 310 pounds.
And if you ask me what worries me the most this year, it's the run defense.
Yeah.
No other way to put it for me. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about it from the linebacker position. We'll talk about that when we get there. But I feel like if Evan Anderson is someone who can remotely stop the run, can stuff things on the inside, feel like he's got a really good shot to make this team. And right now I want to put him on. I know that I kind of feel like I'm jumping the gun there a little bit because we haven't really seen him on the field yet.
That's why this is the way too early.
Way too early. Projection. But I want to put him on. I want to put him on as one of the 10. And that would leave us with
so
2
we're
spots left.
So Evan Anderson, Nick Bosa, Malik Collins, Leonard Floyd, Kevin Givens, Yetur Gross-Matos, Javon Hargrave. So that's 7. And what was our 8th?
Jordan Elliott. Did you say Elliott?
Jordan Elliott. Yeah, Jordan Elliott, 8. That leaves 2 spots for Alex Barrett, Robert Beal Jr., Drake Jackson, and Kalia Davis. Yeah.
And we got 5 D tackles on here right now?
Yeah, we've got Anderson. Yeah. We've got Anderson, Collins, Elliott, Givens, and Hargrave. We've got 5. Yeah.
So we need some edge guys here.
Yeah, the only edge guys we have right now are Bosa and Floyd, and
Pounds will be an inside
and Gross-Matos. And Gross-Matos.
I'm gonna say Beal makes it.
I think so too.
Yeah.
He was a 5th round. Was he 5th or 6th round rookie last year?
I don't remember.
Saw the field a little bit, battled some injuries, but I think they drafted him with images of D Ford in their mind, right? He's 6'4", 250, right? So he's not a big dude, but he has a quick first step, and I think he ran a 4.6 40, 4.7 40, somewhere around there. So I just think that's a guy that you still try to develop. So that leaves 1 spot for Drake Jackson or Alex Barrett or Austin Bryant.
The Drake Jackson experiment is over to me.
I think so too.
Do they see anything in camp that makes us say, okay, let's hold on for a little while longer. Let's see what he could do. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that they're going to go elsewhere.
I wouldn't be surprised if they brought somebody else in. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they made another move at the end.
I don't love the D ends at all. I mean, other than Bosa and Floyd, those are good. But after that, I'm kind of like, I don't love it. Don't love the depth there. But I'll say Bryant's going to be the 10th guy.
Yeah, I mean, he was up and down. He's on the practice squad.
You could talk me out of that, Brian. You could talk me out of it, but
like I said,
I mean, my prediction right now.
For our way too early, I would say Austin Bryant, just because, again, if we're not going Drake Jackson, I think you and I are in agreement that I think, I don't know. It just feels like they soured on him pretty quickly. It really felt like they soured on him just in his rookie year pretty quickly. And then last year, it was like you almost forgot that he was on the squad. Mm-hmm. So, I think I just don't think his spot, just like Danny Gray, is long for this roster. But like I said, I do think that that they could also either bring in somebody before camp, or be waiting for teams to make some cuts and then kind of pull from that. Because I don't think that 10th spot, or that 5th DN spot, or maybe even that 4th and 5th DN spot, I don't think that they're necessarily content with where they're at right now.
Agree. There's still moves to be made here.
Yeah.
I can't imagine they love, like you said, that 4th and 5th spot. I can't imagine they're like, we love these guys. Still think there's going to be some different ways to go there, but we'll see.
The
defensive line.
I'll say, who's still out there? As available? A guy who's battled injuries a lot, and maybe, if you're trying to count on him as a starter, that's probably a bad idea. But if it's a guy that you're bringing in as a rotational piece, it's Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson's still available. And he was a big, Kyle Van Noy also still available. And Bud Dupree is also still available. And so is Yannick Ngakoue. So there are names out there. That are probably waiting for, well, I guess this list was I think this list was as of April 1st.
But to your point, there's some veterans out there that if they look at this roster and say, you know what, we need some upgrade or some competition or whatever, that they can go that route. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's a bad idea. There's guys in this defensive line that are going to have to prove things to me this year, because I don't think it's as strong as it has been in the past, and I believe there's some question marks there, other than the stud guys. But even for me, I don't want to say that, because again, I think Hargrave, I've said it, I think he might be on the downside. 31 years old, wasn't as good last year as he was the year before. That's something to watch. He may have a resurgent year. I'm saying he's a very talented player, right? But if he continues on that downward trend, then all of a sudden you got a problem. So have to see how that all shakes out. But linebacker position, we got to look at this and say Greenlaw's on the pup, right? I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, think he tore it in the Super Bowl. There's just no way that he's ready for week 1. And so you put him on the pup because it just, you don't know when he's going to be available. So yeah, I don't think there's any way that he's not on the pup to start the year.
So you got Warner, who's a stud, obviously. And then how many linebackers we got right now? I know there's some names that you could talk me into here making the team. I think there's a number of options.
So we've got Tatum Bethune, the 7th round draft pick out of Florida State, Devondre Campbell, the free agent they signed from Green Bay, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, Jalen Graham, 7th round pick last year, Curtis Robinson, Ezekiel Turner, Fred Warner, D Winters, and that's it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
9. So Warner's going to make it
9 including Greenlaw. Sorry, 9 including Greenlaw.
9 including Greenlaw.
8 if you don't include Greenlaw.
Warner, Campbell, Ezekiel Turner, and then Winters, Graham, Bethune. 2 of those 3.
Yeah, for whatever reason, this team loves Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. I almost feel like he's a lock, just because he just makes the team every year, and he's just special team stud.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Oh yeah, you're right.
But and so to me, it's, again, like you said, Warner and Campbell, and then we're not including Greenlaw because he's going to be on pup. So there's 3 guys that are we're battling for 3 spots between the rookie Bethune and then Flanagan Fowles, Graham, Robinson, Turner, and Winters. I mean, I'm not impressed by any of them, but also that's not fair to say because Graham and Winters didn't really see the field.
We don't
Flanagan
know
Fowles
yet.
is just a more of a special teams guy.
And he's been on the team for 4 years. I mean,
Yeah.
so I guess it's not fair to just brush him aside.
Right. The one that's interesting to me, Jalen Graham was a 7th round pick last year, and Matt Barrows always interviews Scott McCloughan at the end of every draft just to get his viewpoint. Former GM of the 49ers, Scott McCloughan, to get his viewpoint on the 49ers draft class. And I remember reading after last year, and Jalen Graham was one of his favorite picks. He loved Jalen Graham, but I don't feel like Graham fits the mold of what the 49ers look for in their linebackers, in that he's not a coverage guy, right? He's a bigger, not bigger. He's 6'3", 220. By the way, Ezekiel Turner 6'2", 214. That's what he's listed at. So he's a safety.
Well, he was a safety. Yeah, he was a safety for a lot of his time at Arizona. Played linebacker last year. But I just wonder with him in this Brandon Staley defense, if they like him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As he plays that.
I
don't think.
Yep.
In passing situations, I think you're going to see more 3 safeties in Fred Warner. I feel like that's sort of where you're going to be there. So I think he's making the team with the notion that he's going to play that kind of role.
Yeah. D Winters is on the shorter side. He's 5'11", 227. Tatum Bethune, same thing. They have Tatum Bethune listed at 6 foot 299. That's not correct. 6 foot, I think he's 219. He's not 299.
He'd be playing nose tackle.
Yeah, exactly.
6 foot 300 pounds.
Yeah, but he's another guy that excels in coverage. And so to me, I think Campbell makes it just as a veteran presence in that in that room. And then I think so we say Campbell and Warner and Turner. So now we're talking about the 2 spots for Winters, Curtis Robinson, Jalen Graham, and Tatum Bethune. And to me,
and Flanagan Fowles too.
And Flanagan Fowles. And we think Flanagan Fowles makes. So there's 1 spot.
So there's 4. Yeah, there's 1 spot.
One spot for Robinson, Winters, Graham, and Bethune. And to me, it's hard to say, right? I think there's going to be a camp battle, and you just got to see how it kind of shakes out. I would give the inside edge to the one guy that at least saw the field a little bit last year, very, very, very sparingly, and that would be D Winters. But I think, again, it's just going to be a camp battle to see who gets that last spot.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Say Winters for now, and again, it's TBD as we see how things shake out during camp. But again, it's kind of the same as some of these other positions where, and you're not always going to have crazy depth when you're paying guys, but it scares me a little. It's a kind of a lot of let's see what's sticking against the wall here. Let's throw against the wall and see what sticks with some of these linebackers. And listen, Warner's awesome, man. They're going to need him this year. they're going to need him really bad without Greenlaw there. So
big time.
All right, corners. I think this is probably pretty basic, but maybe not.
One thing that I thought was interesting about corner before we see it is we've talked so much about about defensive coordinator and whether Brandon Staley is essentially the defensive coordinator, just not a name, that I consistently forget the name of the guy they actually hired as defensive coordinator, Nick Sorensen. It came to me.
It's a weird setup.
Yeah. But I was going to say, Nick Sorensen had some time with the press, I believe on today's Wednesday, I believe it was Monday. Some answers that people were kind of flamed him for. One of them was, why do you think you got hired? And he was like, you have to ask Kyle and John that question. And I was like, I feel like you need to have a little bit more confidence in yourself to be like, well, here's why I was hired. So that was weird. But one of the things that he did say was that Renardo Green will start as a nickel corner. So he's going to start as the slot corner and will train there. He'll eventually train outside as well. They like to do inside-outside versatility, but it seems like they view him as an inside guy, which makes sense because one of the strengths of his game is his tackling and his willingness to tackle, and that's what you need at that position. It's why Diamador Lenore is so good there as well. Is he's a great tackler and a willing tackler, and so. But the current corners on the squad, there's a lot of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? And we're saying that they're going to keep
6.
Yeah. So you got rookie Renardo Green, Keemon Hall, don't know who that is. Chase Lucas, free agent that they signed from the Lions. Daryl Luter Jr., Ambry Thomas, Charvarius Ward, Mooney Ward, Samuel Womack, Rocky Sin, Isaac Yadam, and Diamador Lenore. There are some locks there, quite a few locks there, if we're being perfectly honest.
Pick 5 of the 6.
Yeah, 5 of the 6 are locks.
Yeah, maybe
I think Lenore, Yadam, Rocky Sin, Charvarius Ward, and Renardo Green are all locks. Those are locks.
Agree.
So really, you're talking about one spot for Chase Lucas, Daryl Luter Jr., Ambry Thomas, and Samuel Womack. I'm going to eliminate Ambry Thomas right now. Ambry Thomas is not going to be on this team.
I'm going to say Womack gets the 6th spot. And I think what they're going to do, it's all going to depend on Renardo Green, how quickly he's ready. But going into the season, what you're probably going to get, Ward and Lenore in your base, and then a nickel. Lenore will kick inside, and Yadam will be on the outside, assuming Green isn't ready yet. If and when Green is ready, he's the nickel guy. Obviously, they have Lenore and Ward outside, and Green will go into the slot. But to start the season, I think your starters are Ward and Lenore, and then Lenore kicks inside with Yadam going outside and nickel. But I'll say Womack is your 6th guy there.
Yeah, and I will say that Luter is, and I'll say that just because I think Womack has had more of an opportunity to impress this coaching staff and hasn't, just like Ambry Thomas. And I think they were really intrigued by Luter. They loved his interview. They took him in, I believe he was a 5th rounder last year. And so to me, I say Luter makes it over Womack and Thomas and Lucas. Because Womack and Thomas have had more opportunity to impress this coaching staff and haven't done it. And so I think they give the edge to Luter.
The punt went off Luter's foot in the Super Bowl, right? He was that
true.
So
That's true.
I think there's a chance the way things are going that Kyle Shanahan runs him over with his car before he gets to camp. So he may not. I think he's on the hit list.
Fair. That's fair.
And he may not be there. Yeah,
that is.
They
fair.
may find him in Burford. Like, pretty sure Kyle tried to run us over today. We were coming in.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah. That to me, that is arguably the easiest position we've gone through. Outside
safety might be pretty easy.
Well, safety is interesting because we don't know about Hufanga and his injury recovery. So the safeties they have on the roster right now are Jair Brown, Eric Harris, Taylor Hawkins, Hufanga, undrafted free agent rookie Jalen Mahoney, special teams ace George Odom, and then rookie 4th rounder Malik Mustafa.
Man, do you like that? Do you like that group? I don't know. I feel like that group.
No.
They got to bring in Justin Simmons. They have to bring someone in. When you reading that to me out loud, I'm like,
you would think.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Do you understand where I'm coming? And I know you don't. You're. Maybe it's me just being negative, but as we're going through this, and don't you kind of see where I'm coming from? Where there's some positions where you're kind of like, oh shit, or we're an injury away from like really being fucked. Like,
defensive end,
linebacker, safety. Yeah. There's some spots here. I think the offensive line, they'll figure it out, and there's still a ton of weapons there. They're going to score a lot of points, but defensively, injury or two here, and you got some problems. I love the corners. Love the corners.
Yeah.
But other than
which is
wild.
It's the first time I think in the Kyle Shanahan era where on the defensive side of the ball, the strongest unit might be the defensive backs,
Yeah,
or at
no, I
least the
agree.
cornerbacks.
The corners,
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah,
Right now, Lenore and Ward are your studs, and
yeah.
then you got Bosa, arguably Hargrave, and Warner. I mean, there's still some really good players, but
Hmm.
I don't know, man. Anyway, so
Yeah,
assuming
but
Hufanga's
locks.
healthy,
Yeah. So if
Hufunga
Hufunga's healthy, then the locks are Mustafa, Hufunga, and Brown
and Odom,
and Odom. So then
there's your
that's
safeties
it.
right
There's
there.
your
Unless
four. Yeah.
unless they decide look like Brown's not ready and we need to bring in um Justin Simmons.
Yeah.
Do you keep
Who is still available?
if you're going to run three safeties? Do you keep five safeties
That's
and
another
maybe
good
drop
question.
a linebacker or something like that? You know, it depends on what they're going to do defensively. Maybe they do keep it another safety guy. I don't love that group at all, especially with Hufunga coming back from his injury.
Yeah, and again, we don't know the answer to that question of whether they want to run more three safety sets. We think that they do, but obviously we won't know until we start to see how the defense is shaping up. But yeah, I agree. You may go five safeties, or maybe you go five safeties and five corners instead of four safeties and six corners.
Yeah, that's
And
true
you go,
too. Yep.
because again, that we had five locks at corner. And so there's really not a whole lot. I mean, it would be all you're losing is Darrell Luter Jr., who was injured most of last year anyway. So yeah, I think we don't know what they want to do, so it's really kind of up in the air. But I think four safeties are a lock in Odom, Mustafa, Hufunga, and Brown. If Hufunga has to start the year on PUP, then maybe you look at like a Taylor Hawkins. But if he
Okay.
has to start the year on PUP, you're in trouble. And so, like you said, I think I don't. They've got money. I don't know what they're waiting
Yeah, they
for.
have to. And
Justin Simmons, go get him
Kyle doesn't love to rush the rookies, so Mustafa
at
might
all.
just
Yeah,
be special teams this year. It's not like he's going to come
yeah,
in and take over for Funga. So, yeah,
right.
man, I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about that.
Yeah.
All right, so the specialists are Moody, Wisnowski, and Pepper. We're going to talk about that.
Yep.
Who do
Yep.
you think the kick returner is going to be?
I think the kick returner is going to be Isaac Garendo, and I think the punt returner is going to be Jacob Cowing. I am 10 toes down on that.
Don't disagree, but here's what I'm going to throw out with kick returner. Because of the way it is this year,
Debo.
they may have a main guy, but I wonder if they're going to sprinkle some stuff in. Wonder if you're going to have Debo maybe go out here and there.
Yeah.
Maybe they get a little creative. I really think people are going to get creative with the kick returns. And it could be more of a rotating thing. We have a guy maybe do 70% of them, but then you mix a couple other guys in here and there. I like Cowing at the punt returner. I agree with that. And Garendo, sure, I'll buy that. But don't be surprised if you get other guys sprinkled in and they get creative, especially in a big game in a big spot. There's no way Debo won't be out there. Just last year with the team. Anyway, they're going to use him probably as much as they can. So
and here's the thing as a 49ers fan, but also as a football fan in general, you got to prepare yourself that kick returns are going to be the deciding factor in I think quite a few games this year. I think
it's going to change momentum in so many games this year. Completely different aspect of football.
Yep, I love it.
Craziness.
I'm excited about it,
dude. We've been going an hour here. Holy
I know.
Shit. I didn't realize that. I just looked at the time.
I did as well. I mean,
we'll
you're
see.
talking about 90 players. So
yeah, and we'll see. We'll look back. What is it, May? So 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is, and see how right we were. See what changes.
Yeah,
man.
Again, injuries, things like that. Hopefully, some signings. We'll see.
I hope I'm wrong, people. But there's I think there's some holes here. I think there's some possible issues here for the Niners that could hold them back. But
100%.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm usually
negative.
Negative Al. Sorry, everybody. All right, so we're out of here. We are working on a special guest. I don't want to spoil it, but hopefully in the next week or so we can come through with somebody who's pretty cool. You guys,
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Cross our fingers, we can lock it down. But until then, for Brian, I'm Al.
Later.